Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. We're having an exciting start to the Lunch and Learn program. We have Cindy Torno and Lisa Noey coming to talk to us today about pecans and pecan trees. And I'm assuming how to grow them, how to eat. I know how to eat them. How about that? So without any further ado, we will start with Cindy. Cindy's going to start with us. Okay, thank you.
Well, welcome. We're happy to share what little we know about pecan trees with you today. Most everything we know about pecan trees we've learned by trial and error. And anyway, we're going to share a little bit of background about pecan trees with you before we get into the planting and care. Pecan trees are native to North America. And the first written record we have about them is by the Spanish explorer Cabeza de Vaca in 1528. He wrote about them. And from there, they have gone on to become a multi-million-dollar cash crop and appreciated for their nutritious nuts and their beautiful wood. Pecans are classified as a hickory. Okay, a member of the walnut family. How many of you knew that? Did you know that? I didn't know that either. And the word pecan comes from Native Americans who's pronounced it P-A-K-A-N. And I don't know exactly how they said that. But anyway, P-A-K-A-N. Cabeza de Vaca described pecan trees growing along river bottoms from the Mississippi all the way to South Texas. And he noted that the Indians used them for food and for trading. They would eat them raw, they would roast them and put honey on them, and they also made the first granola bar that I've heard of. They would pound the pecans and then add dried buffalo jerky to that and some other things, and then they would have a granola bar, which was quite nutritious. And of course, they would trade the pecans with other Native Americans. Pecan trees, there are pecan trees that grow well in the north and pecan trees that grow well in the south. And they require 180 days frost-free to produce a crop. And they also require 300 to 400 hours of chilling time, which I was not aware of. I thought only peach trees had to have chilling time, but pecan trees need that too. And the further south you go, the larger the trees. Our trees grow anywhere from 80 to 100 feet tall, and they'll have a large girth, and they can live as long as 200 years. Governor James Hogg, let's talk about Governor James Hogg just a little bit. There he is. He was the first one, I think, to really make the pecan tree popular. He loved them, and on his deathbed, let's see if I can find what he said. He says, "I don't want a monument of marble or stone, but plant a pecan tree at my head and a walnut at my feet." And in 1919, the Texas legislature would go on to make it our state tree. And also the pecan pie is our state pie. Did you know that? The pecan capital of Texas is San Saba. It's not only noted for Tommy Lee Jones' hometown, but also for pecans. And they've been growing pecans since 1857. And in a year, they might have as many as 2 to 5 million pounds of pecans, that they produce. 80% of the counties in Texas do have pecan trees. And Texas, of course, has more pecan trees than any other place in the world, having over 1 million acres of pecan trees and 500,000 acres that are improved varieties. Okay, and so since the Civil War, we have really gotten into planting pecans. let's see, what else do I want to say here? Oh, yeah. After the Civil War, the price of cotton went to nothing, and other cash crops had to be found. E.W. Kirkpatrick of McKinney, Texas said this: "We have hurt ourselves and our soul raising cotton, and dragged our women and children down and reduced them to almost slaves to work cotton and sell it for 5 cents a pound." And I can remember my great grandmother, Maddie Page Watson, talking about picking cotton as a girl, and how when she would get to the end of a row, she'd squeeze the dew out of her long skirt and go on. But they had graduated sizes of cotton sacks. Even the children picked cotton. So it was really a hard way to make a living. We have pursued the wrong course in neglecting the pecan. It excels in everything. Kirkpatrick would go on to organize the Texas Nut Growers Association in 1906 and really promoted the pecan tree from there. So as you can see, after having a slow start, the pecan has taken off and become a multi-million-dollar crop, especially here in Texas. I think Georgia is still the top producer of pecans, but we have the most trees.
That's true.
So Lisa, would you like to talk a little bit about pecans?
Sure. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about orchard planning and care. So one thing that's really important is, if you're going to plant an orchard or plant trees, site selection is essential. You need to have a good, well-draining soil, at least 2 to 4 feet of well-draining soil on top, okay? You need sunlight for trees to grow, so you don't want to plant your trees next to some other vegetation that's going to shade it out.
I think they say 40 to 70 feet apart.
Yes.
Okay, for the trees.
Yes, if you're going to, that's the suggested distance apart, because shading from one tree to another will reduce your pecan crop that you get. Okay, so also you need to plant trees in areas that are not susceptible to pesticide drift. So if you're next to a big soybean field or something like that, make sure you have a barrier between that and where you're going to plant your orchard. Good water source is a must. You need to have good water. Salinity can be a factor with your water. If you have too much salt in your water, that will affect the growth of your trees as well. Okay, also varmints. You need to select a site where you're not going to have damage from hogs. I'm in Leon County. Good luck with that. So you're going to have to come up with a way to manage that. Okay, deers, moles, gophers, squirrels, crows. Okay, so the moles and the gophers will eat the roots, so make sure you have a plan for that. And then when you actually get your nuts, squirrels and crows are not your friend. Okay, so my son has an orchard, and last season he lost a major part of his crop due to crows. Crows got them before he could get them harvested, mainly because that's not his only job. He's not there at the orchard all the time, so there was that. Also, they were getting the pecans right before they got ripe. So they weren't ready to harvest, but the crows were after them. So this year they implemented a plan for that.
You have to be very proactive about this. We have an orchard cannon, which does not make us popular with our neighbors, but it's very effective. And also we have one of those things, that has the air inside that slings its arms around.
I'm so sorry.
And anyway, that's great. That has really done a good job of keeping the squirrels and crows away.
Yes. Okay, so this is very important as well. You want to plant more than one variety if you're going to set up your own orchard, or even if you just plan to plant a few trees. Make sure you choose trees that are different types. We have type 1 trees that are protandrous. I hope I said that correctly. And which means that they shed their pollen early. Okay, and then you have type 2 trees that are protogenous. Did I say that right?
Protogenous. Yeah.
Protogenous, okay. And that's the kind that receives pollen early. So you need both in your orchard in order to get a good crop.
In your handout, we have a picture, okay, of the male pollinator and then what the little female flower looks like. And of course, it's pollinated by wind, not by bees, wind.
Yes, pecans are wind pollinated, not by bees. Popular varieties in our area are Caddo, Kanza, Sioux, Pawnee, Cheyenne, and a desirable. Okay, there's more. I have a board up here that you can come look at later that shows all of the different varieties of pecans that are grown in Texas. They're all different sizes. So after our presentation, feel free to come up here and look at this board. These, if you notice, they're mainly indigenous names, I guess you would say. They're more resistant to the scab, which is a disease that's prevalent in the East Texas area because of our weather. Okay, so.
Caused by rain?
Yes.
Heavy rain.
Heavy rain causes the scab. So you also want to, when you choose your trees, you can either choose bare root or container grown trees. If you choose to get bare root trees, make sure you keep the roots moist until you're ready to put those trees in the ground. Okay, so you don't want to let the roots completely dry out. Make sure, this is just planting your trees. Of course, we already talked about the sunlight. So when you choose those planting positions, like the suggested distance apart is 40 to 70 feet. Now you may decide to choose to plant, if you're planting an orchard, say you're going to plant 50 trees, you may choose to plant some closer together when they're young, but as they grow and their canopy enlarges, you're going to need to select some to cut down so that the remaining trees do get adequate sunlight. You want to dig your hole only as large as the root system. Okay, so you don't need to dig it 2 or 3 feet larger than what the root system is. And one of those reasons is because then you risk getting too much air around the roots, and then that could cause problems with disease later on. If you have a container grown plant that you're going to plant, take it out of the pot, shake off all of the loose dirt, and look at the roots. Okay, if the roots have been in the pot too long, they might be mangled and tangled, and some of them may be growing upward rather than downward. So you're going to want to trim those roots that aren't growing a direction where they're going to be beneficial to the plant, trim those off, and then plant your tree. So after you do that, you're going to fill the hole with the native soil that it's going to grow in. Those roots are going to expand out. So if you put amended
the
soil,
canopy.
yes, yes, they're going to, yes, they do. They expand out as wide as the canopy goes, and then you have a taproot that also goes down into the ground.
That can go down as far as 20 feet.
Yes. So if you just put amended soil around there, it's not really going to do much good. So just put the original soil that you dug out of the hole back in, tamp it down as you're filling it, and then you want to hand water it with at least 5 gallons of water after you plant it. They really suggest hand watering for a while so that you know you're getting all the water right there around the plant. Okay, so they're getting all the benefit of that. Even if you plan to plant just 2 or 3 trees, this still is the appropriate planting method. So cut the newly planted tree back by 1/3 to 1/2. What that does is it lets the tree put all of its energy into growing new roots for the first couple of years before it puts its energy into growing upward. So it establishes a good root system. And then as your tree is growing, you might see several little limbs coming out. You want to kind of train it. You want to trim off those smaller limbs and train it to have one main, what do you call it?
Leader.
A central leader, yes. Okay. Okay, watering is important. Pecan trees need a lot of water. I hate that word. They need water. If you want your trees to produce well and you want them to grow well, you need to water new trees pretty much every day to every third day for the next couple of years. Okay, for that year, especially in the summertime, you're going to find yourself needing to water those trees every year. I mean, every day. Okay, and then 2 to 5 times a week for the second year. And then,
Well, right now, because there's a drought, we're watering 3 times a week.
Even now, in the older trees need water.
I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a sprinkler head in that little dam.
So, yes, this
built around the
picture
tree.
actually came from Miss Torno's orchard, and you see that they've put a berm around the tree. The base of the tree, how far out is that, do you think?
How many?
2 to 3 feet around the outside base. They built the berm up, and if you can see right here, I forget I have a pointer. This right here is a little sprinkler head. So all the water that is designated for that tree stays in that berm.
Plus your fertilizer.
Yes, yes. So then feeding the plant or fertilizing, you need, this is the suggested, this is not, if you talk to different growers, they may tell you different things about how they fertilize and feed their plants, but this is what was suggested from Texas AgriLife. New trees, you should start out with 1 pound of 10% nitrogen per tree applied between May and August, okay? So that's actually 1/10 of a pound of actual nitrogen. Nitrogen is the grower, right? It's what it needs to grow a good tree, okay? And then the second and third year, 2.5 to 4 pounds of 10% nitrogen. And then 4 to 7 years, 6 to 12.5 pounds per tree of 10% nitrogen.
You can also, plant clover, okay, in your pecan orchard to help put nitrogen back into the soil. All that helps.
Yes. So planting a cover crop is suggested between your trees. You need to make sure you keep the vegetation low and try to keep out the weeds because they just compete with the trees for the nutrients, just like anything else. So yes, if you plant a cover crop between the trees, such as clover, then that helps replenish the nitrogen. Okay, something that's a nitrogen replenisher, it makes a good cover crop. Okay, if some of you have trees established but you're not getting any nuts, this could be the reason. Okay. Zinc is essential for nut production. So beginning when your bud breaks on your tree, you need to start spraying with a zinc spray. Okay. So some of the things that could happen is you could have malformations like rosette. If you don't have good leaf growth, which is what zinc helps promote, then you don't have good energy production in your tree. So it could cause decreased photosynthesis just because there might be some kind of problem with your leaf growth. Maybe there's, they had another, and I'm sorry I didn't put it in here, another malformation that can happen with your leaves that decreases the photosynthesis production in the tree. Okay, so that means less energy, you don't produce as much fruit on your tree. So,
and we spray through August with zinc.
Okay, so you can either spray like there's a powder that you can dilute, or you can get a liquid form of zinc to spray on your trees. And you do that every 10 to 14 days at least through, this said through July. Some people spray later, okay, through August. Also, it seems like you're spraying all the time.
When you're spraying and watering, it sounds like this is an intensive kind of
It is. If you intend to
If you
have,
want fruit.
yes, fruit, there's a lot more work to growing pecans than you would think.
And even before they start putting out leaves, you want to spray with a dormant oil, okay, to kill all the buggies that have made a
Yes.
home there during the winter. So get
Yes.
ready to start
Okay.
even before they have leaves.
So yes, right at that time, you're spraying for bugs, you're spraying zinc, you're fertilizing, and you're watering constantly. So the main problem, other than critters, is pecan scab in our area. Pecan scab is it's caused by a fungus. This is kind of what it looks like if it goes unchecked on the pecans as they're growing. Okay, so if that happens, those nuts are going to fall off the tree and you're not going to get a crop. Okay, you can also see evidence of it on leaves and stems as well. Okay, so you need to use a fungicidal spray, and you spray that just like you do spray the zinc. Many times they just put it all in there, spray it all at one time. So other diseases are powdery mildew, downy spot, leaf spot, cotton root rot. Most of those can be controlled by the fungicidal spray. Also, you need to rotate your sprays. Okay, so don't just use one, because that could cause a resistance to build up in the trees. So alternate the fungicides that you use. Okay. All creatures love pecans. Everything likes to eat them. Most things like to eat them before they get grown. So we have pecan weevils we have to spray for. Other things could be pecan case borers, aphids, leaf-footed bugs, stink bugs, beetles, moths, shuckworms, all these things. Even fire ants are something that you have to watch for, because they'll get up in the trees and they'll eat the little tiny baby pecans. So be careful with that. Okay. I'm not going to recommend any kind of particular thing to spray. I mean, we can talk to the county extension agent. That's another thing that you'll probably want to vary too, is what you use as a pesticide to spray your trees. Okay. All right, Ms. Torno, would you like to talk?
Well, in this particular picture, they're spraying. Okay, they're not actually trimming limbs.
So this is actually Ms. Torno's and Mr. Torno's orchard at their house.
Right,
So,
and the trees are tall enough now that we have to have a tractor, you know, with a lift to get up high enough to be able to spray everything. And that's what they're doing right there. They're probably spraying zinc, I would think, right there in that picture. And anyway, scab,
Scab,
right?
yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here.
Let's see.
I thought it was trimming limbs, but it is actually spraying. So sorry.
Right. We usually trim limbs in February. I
Yes.
think, before they start to bud out.
Okay.
Okay, and these trees are leafed out now, and they've probably already pollinated. And like I said, in your brochure, your little handout, we've got pictures of what the little pollinators look like.
Cindy,
Yes.
about what time of year is that?
That is probably April. Yes, because remember, your pecan tree is going to be the last deciduous tree to bud out in the spring.
Sometimes when I decide when I'm going to plant my garden, if I want to avoid frost, I go by the native pecan trees on my road, and I drive and I say, well, have they started to bud out yet? If they haven't budded, then I'm not going to plant my tomato plants. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, and here, I believe they're shaking the trees. We have a shaker, and you don't just shake once because all the pecans don't get ready at the same time. And this shaker does not damage the trees. I've seen some that do trunk damage, but this shaker does not damage our tree trunks.
It also doesn't knock down the green ones?
No, only the ones that are ripe or ready to fall. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, nature's way, nature's way.
So you do that more than?
Yes, we'll do it probably about 3 times. Is that right? About 3 times they'll go through. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's another video. Let's see.
What's this one?
This is at the
Is that your seminar?
At the research center
Yes.
in Somerville.
Yeah.
We went to with the intern
Mhm.
class, and you can see the top of the tree shake whenever it goes in just a few seconds.
Woo,
There
there you
you
go.
go. There you go.
The whole ground beneath it shifts.
It's pretty loud.
Do you ever get any birds' nests knocked down the tree?
The birds don't really like to be in those pecan trees because we do so much to them. All the spraying and everything. Don't really have trouble. And we want to keep the crows away, so we don't care if they like it or not. And here we have the roller that's our machine with the rollers that are picking up the pecans that have fallen. And that is really nice. We don't have to go around by hand picking up pecans.
Cindy, but how many trees do you have?
We have 40 trees, but our orchard is small compared to Lisa's son Will, who has 200 trees. He has really a commercial orchard. Ours is just.
Do you eat all your pecans?
Yes, we they freeze well.
Yes.
I put them in Ziploc freezer bags, and they'll last up to 3 or 4 years in the freezer because of the oil content.
Yes.
So it's just an easy crop, to deal with.
So
Also, after they fall, okay, we put them on drying racks and we let them dry for about 3 weeks. Okay, and once we feel like they've dried enough, we take them to be cracked. Okay, and then the fun job of picking them out. It's very easy after you've had them cracked.
yes.
How
Yes.
many years does it take from actual planting to harvest?
It's going to be 6 years before you have pecans. And, a lot of the trees that you buy ready to plant are going to be a couple years old. I don't know how old ours were when we planted them. Do you know? They were 5 years old, very heavy. And they're 27 years old now? 30 years old now. So, anyway.
All right. I think that's it.
Is that it? Okay.
You mean to talk about this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So last year, my son had asked me to attend this Texas Pecan Orchard Management short course with him. This is the information that I can share with you later if you want, but if you really intend to be serious about growing a commercial pecan crop, this is where you need to go to learn about that. It was extremely informative. It was a week-long course, but I personally got information overload. There was so much to learn about growing pecans on that scale. So if you're interested in that, you can see this information.
Would this be beneficial for a person who's not interested in commercial orchard?
Sure, it would, absolutely. But you'll probably learn more than you ever want to know. But yes, yes. Yes.
Oh, I want to talk about that.
Yes.
One thing we haven't talked about is fertilizing.
Yes.
We put 50 pounds of chicken manure and 25 pounds of commercial on every tree. And that's 16, 6, 12, which is like a fruit tree fertilizer that you can get. And anyway, every tree gets that, and that's in March that we put that out. Yeah.
So will be
Okay, Centerville Feed can get that for you, and, anyway, it's put out in March, yeah, before the little trees start budding out. Any questions? I know you must have a lot of questions.
What kind of yield did they have to say? We got 40 trees and we use all of them. Just a local homeowner, if they want a pine tree, what kind of yield can we expect?
Okay, well, this past year, we had kind of a stunted crop because of pecan scab. Yeah, that was a learning curve for us, but we still got about 400 pounds.
On 40
So,
trees.
yeah, off our
That's
trees.
about 100 pounds of trees.
But, on a good year, so on a good year, we'll get a good crop, and that's enough to share with friends, family. 100 pounds, and yes.
Do you have to have more than one variety in
Yes.
the orchard? The partner varieties in order for them to pollinate
Yes,
correctly?
you do. And on your handout on the last page, we have a list of pecan trees. And the one at the very top of the page is the desirable, and that's the top pollinator. And you need a desirable in your orchard if you're going to plant pecan trees. And then the pawnee is real popular right now. It's, I think, big with the growers right now.
What's your favorite tasting?
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne?
Cheyenne.
She says Cheyenne.
That's my son has some Cheyenne in his, and of all of the ones that he had in his, that was my favorite, was Cheyenne. So yes.
Other questions? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Can you have other nut-bearing trees in a mixed orchard with pecans? Say walnuts or something else within the orchard, and they'll.
Now, you would ask me that question. I don't know. I wouldn't think you'd want to do that.
Well, they're not going to pollinate one another.
Yeah.
So
I just want to know if they would interfere with each other as they grew up.
I don't. I am just guessing. This is not an official informed response, but I would think if one got a disease or something, it may transfer over to the other. That would be maybe one reason not to. They may have different requirements as far as water and fertilization and things like that go. So you might consider planting them near each other, but maybe not with intermingled.
Okay.
I've never seen an orchard.
No.
What is the economics of a 200 tree orchard? How long does it take to get your money back?
Well, he hasn't gotten his money back, but he purchased the orchard that was already established. So, but it had not been in production for some years. So it's taken about 3 years for him to get the irrigation redone, and all of the getting rid of the scab and that sort of thing to happen. So he's had the orchard about 3 years, and he got his first large crop this year.
Does Texas A&M suggest?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a couple of comments on the question of different varieties.
Yes.
The one that I would avoid would be a black walnut.
Okay.
Because black walnuts, it's called allelopathy. Black walnut is kind of toxic to other plants. So you don't want, you wouldn't want to try to mix that.
To mix that.
The others are so closely related that you can graft from.
Yes.
You can graft from pecan onto hickory rootstock. So
Okay.
I would not expect there to be a problem with any other kinds of.
Yes. Okay. Did you have another question?
Yeah, does Texas A&M suggest a yearly return? How many years it does? The course that you took?
I can't recall that they said that you should have your return on your money within a certain number of years. No, in fact, last year when I went to the course, it was somewhat depressing on on a commercial standpoint, because the price per pound of pecans at that time really didn't allow you to make a profit. I mean, so things might be changing in this economy, I don't know, but if you're going to sell to a wholesaler, the price per pound was not feasible to actually plan to make that your entire life income. Yes.
About all the pecan trees in town and
Yes.
how the culture has been to collect the nuts and then take them to the person who would buy them from you.
Mhm.
And there's only one place left in town that will buy pecans from individuals.
From individuals, yes.
There's a place in Fredericksburg that would buy your pecans if you want.
Yes, yes. And so, you know, there's other marketing strategies. If you're going to produce your own nuts, you might want to consider marketing them yourself to the public rather than selling to a wholesaler.
Well, and these are not from orchards. I'm sorry.
Right, so they just go around, you know, we have pecan trees at our courthouse square and people pick those up. So that might be what you're talking about. Yes, yes.
So if, for personal consumption,
Yes.
what would be the smallest number of trees? I don't need 40, I definitely don't need 200, but just for us.
Well, you would need,
We have one native on the property.
yes, I would expect you would need a minimum of 2 different varieties of trees to pollinate correctly, you know.
4 would be a nice number.
Yes, 4 would probably be better. Yes.
Oh, and another thing, no one has asked about, you know, how pecans have a heavy bearing year and then a year where they don't. Nobody's asked that question about that. I'm going to tell you now. To produce a huge nut crop requires a lot of carbohydrate energy from the tree. And so they kind of use that up, producing a huge crop. So the next year, you know, you have an off year, you know, with that tree until it builds its carbohydrate energy back up. And that's why the large growers, you know, have so many different varieties of trees, you know, to offset that. Anything else? We're not trying to discourage you. But
No.
they're high maintenance.
They
They're a
are.
high maintenance tree. Yeah, they're a high maintenance tree. But those of us that have them, we love them, you know. And
Also, pecans, one of the things we studied in that short course that I took was their nutritional value. They're actually more nutritious than, say, the almond. And, you know, almonds are popular. You see them everywhere in the stores. So why don't we see, you know, little
Pecans.
packages of pecans being on the shelf next to the snack packages of almonds, you know? So that's it. They're more organized in their marketing strategies. So
we've got some samples up here for you to try. And I want you to notice the size. These pecans came from our orchard. And I want you to notice the size of these pecans. You know, they're not that little bitty thing you buy in the store. You know, these are a nice size pecan.
if you look at these pecans and you taste these pecans and then you go to the store and buy some, you will be able to tell the difference.
The oil content's going to be much better.
Those are probably older in the store. too.
Yeah, I would think
Ooh, maybe.
they may even be last year's crop, you know. Yes.
Right.
Anything else?
Okay, they're going to be the varieties on the back sheet that we have planted.
Well, thank you everybody for coming today. We
Yes, and
appreciate
I hope you
you.
learned something.
Hopefully you learned a little something, and please come look at this board.
It's really interesting.
It is. It has all of the varieties of pecans grown in Texas, from the largest nut to the smallest.